Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Monday, the 21st of October. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack, fresh from his week off. Good to have you back, Chris. How's it going?
Monday to Saturday was really enjoyable. Sunday less so, because I knew that I was on the Monday show, and I was a lucky one that got to pick the bones out of whatever that was yesterday.
Yeah, whatever that was, it was an absolutely diabolical display from Rangers. So many comments have already fired into the screen on my right-hand side. We'll get through as many as possible, folks, feeling very much the same with alongside myself and Chris as we pick the bones out of what unfolded at Rugby Park. Rangers losing by a 1-0. Marley Watkins, a late strike after a defensive calamity, you've got to say, from Rangers. But they really struggled against, what was it? Pretty resolute Kilmarnock defence. They didn't have to play out their skin by any matter of means. Rangers really flattered to deceive, offered very little in attack. The first half was pretty much a non-event, other than Kilmarnock having a goal disallowed through VAR. Rangers pretty fortunate with regards to that. Second half, I'm just trying to think what happened. Cyril Dessers had a shot from distance at Robbie McCrory, turned away for a corner. He hit the bar from the resultant corner. But that's pretty much it. Hamza Agaman came on, showed a bit more than Dessers, who we'll discuss in detail in this video. But Rangers were lacklustre. There was a real turgid performance. Considering what occurred at Parkhead the day before, there was a feeling of that Rangers could go to Ayrshire and close the gap on the top two to just 3 points. In the end, they end the weekend further away from the top. Now 6 points behind. The pressure well and truly on Philippe Clement. The fans obviously unfurled a message in the away end yesterday as well. Not best pleased at what's happening, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, with the situation as it is in the boardroom. And Rangers at this moment in time, Chris, very much in disarray. What did you make of it yesterday?
It was dreadful from first minute until the last. And I think one of the biggest things that you can perhaps take away from it is no one was really surprised.
No.
And I think that's quite a damning indictment of the manager and of the squad, and really just of the club in general. You looked at this weekend, Celtic playing Aberdeen, and the result in that game went in Rangers' favour. Celtic dropped a couple of points. It was then an opportunity. How many people sitting on Saturday night, going into Sunday morning, going into that game yesterday, how many people truly believe that this Rangers side were capable of putting in a performance and getting a result that was a real statement of intent in this title race, that was a real show of we're in this, we can go to difficult places and we can pick up big results? Very, very few believed it would happen. And when Kelly got the goal, there was almost a sense of inevitability about it. It was a case of it was almost always going to happen, because that's just what some of these Rangers players do. That's just the malaise that this football team, squad, club has been in for too many seasons now. Yes, there are new players within this group. Old issues still remain, and there are more questions about Philippe Clement now than there has been at any stage over the last 12 months and 6 days.
Yes. Where do we start with this? Like you say, Chris, I think that there was a feeling that this Rangers team, when presented with an opportunity, when the team across the city drop points, they more often than not fail to capitalise on that. They've done so down the years. They don't have the minerals. They don't have the mentality, the bottle required to latch on to any misplaced points from Celtic, and they've got a feeling now that they can win the title in second gear. For me, there is no title challenge other than potentially, I very much doubt they can last the pace, but Aberdeen, who have started off like a train and did very well to get a point at Parkhead at the weekend. But we're focusing on Rangers because yesterday was a real it was a disaster, but it's something that we've witnessed a lot under the Belgians' stewardship at this moment in time. He came in, got that new manager bounce, and had us all believing that Rangers could go on and win the title. Ever since the Motherwell defeat at Ibrox, it has gone awry, and things have unravelled. And if you look at this season, he's brought in his own players. I get, like you say, there is a bit of downsizing going on, and he has had 2 transfer windows now. We haven't seen, he's just passed his year in charge, and I don't think we've seen much progress than when he first entered the gates at Ibrox. I would argue possibly Michael Beale's side would beat this Rangers side at this moment in time. I fail to see what he's doing with the team. I think yesterday, and it's not just yesterday, that's not a case in point, but Rangers are a hard watch at this moment in time. They do not. This is the entertainment industry, football, and you're not entertained. I can't recall the last time I enjoyed watching Rangers domestically. In Europe's a different matter. You get the odd win, Malmo being the one that's the outlier, if you like. But Rangers are not a joy to watch. The players do not look like they know what they're trying to do. They don't look like they're playing for the manager. They look like 11 strangers that have just been bundled together and told to go out there and play football. I'm struggling to see what he's trying to do. I get that he is a big fan of this system. Number 10, of course, with the 2 wingers and the front man. It is clearly not working. Everyone with eyes can see it's not working. And it's going to come to his cost if he doesn't change it, Chris.
I think there's so many. We could arguably sit here all day and discuss the range of issues at Ibrox at present. I think the manager is arguably the biggest one at present. You've got some of the new signings that have come in who are not up to speed or perhaps don't look up to it. You've got players who have been at the club for longer than that who either should have moved on or should move on going forward. You've got the range of off-field issues and positions to be filled. And as I said at the top of the show, it's just there's so much on the agenda at Rangers. There is no one fix. There is certainly no quick fix. Now this idea that you sack the manager and things will improve. Yes, you might get, as we've seen this time last year and before that, you might get that new manager bounce, that you might get that immediate injection into a squad. If Kilmarnock wants to leave tomorrow, would you back Rangers to go and be better on Thursday night and then be better on Sunday? Probably, because that's just how players react. Is that going to solve any of the bigger issues in play? Not really. That's not to say that the manager is not an issue. As I said, there are a range of issues on the agenda at present, and each one probably deserves its own show and serialisation of shows because there's just so much here. And yesterday was almost every issue bundled into one, and it went how I think a lot of people expected it to. As I said earlier on, it was no surprise that Rangers dropped points yesterday because they just don't have, whether it's a tactical approach, whether it's a mental approach, they just don't have what it takes to be champions this season. And I think that's, again, we've been saying that since the transfer window closed, probably before the transfer window closed. I don't think we've been backing Rangers to go on and put in a proper sustained title challenge this season. A win yesterday could have given people slight confidence, but I say it never looked on the cards. A really, really poor performance, and another game when another game where it was all laid out there for Rangers. You know what you have to do, and once again they proved incapable of doing it.
Yeah, nowhere near enough leaders in that team and squad at this moment in time. Incidentally, I know that many of you don't want to listen to the manager. Joshua asked him a question. I don't know if he had a message for the supporters after the game. This is what he had to say.
What do you and supporters, the ones who are unhappy, what would your message be? What should give them belief that things can turn, the results can come?
That's what you've seen the last couple of weeks also, and there are a lot of players new here, first time playing at Kilmarnock. So the longer they play here, the more they're used to the circumstances. We get a goal against today and it's not pointing at the player, for sure not, but it's just explaining situations where a right fullback steps out not together with the rest to put the team offside. It's those details that we paid cash today, and in other moments we didn't pay them cash. So the longer this team plays together, the better they will become. And the more they can learn out of the mistakes made and the good moments also. The good things that they did together, what they did already last couple of weeks. And it's about working hard, staying together, digging in, and getting results. And that's the only way to get fans behind you, not the other.
So that's what he had to say, Chris. Trying to get the fans behind him. I think the fans are quickly losing patience with him. They're not, like I said before, they're not seeing anything. It'd be different if you could see. If Rangers battered Kilmarnock yesterday, Robbie McCrory had a worldie and he'd made a number of saves, and fair enough. Rangers created virtually nothing. It was like, no, it reminded me of Dens Park last season when Ross County happened, and then you're wanting a reaction, put it behind you, just a bump in the road, and it was just the most meh game you've ever seen in your life. That tells me the players aren't taking on instructions, aren't playing for the manager, and that is a bad combination. You mentioned the other manager. I think he is under pressure, and he should be under pressure. I don't think he can have too many complaints if the trigger was pulled. You look at the thing that you mentioned, though. You look at the board level. Who's going to make that decision? As Denzel and many others have raised the point, he says, I worry the problems go far deeper than the manager. If we go down the sacking route, who makes the decision? Who appoints a new manager? Who pays for it? I don't necessarily have faith that this current board, as it is, can go and get a guy that is better suited to Rangers than the current incumbent. It looks like probably until we have a CEO appointed, a chairman appointed, proper guys at the top appointed, then we might be in a state of flux, this limbo situation until those positions are filled. Chris, it might just be a suck it up and just get on with it.
I would be really surprised if this current board and executive setup decide to sack the manager. And I think if the fans could step back a wee bit and take some of the emotion and take some of the anger out of it, there's two questions. Should Philippe Clement be under huge pressure and arguably at risk of losing his job? I think the majority, we've seen it in social media, you see it on guys that you speak to, you see it on the comments on the show. There is now a groundswell, I think, of Rangers fans who believe he should either be under sustained, serious pressure or he should be sacked. That's one part of it. When you then actually look at how that would unfold, you can't have an interim chairman sacking a manager, because who's going to appoint the next one? John Gilligan is not going to be the Rangers chairman that the next Rangers manager works with. There is no CEO for the next Rangers manager to work with. There's very little football support round about that manager. So the people that are at the club, John Gilligan, as interim chairman, George Latham, if fulfilling his role at present, plus the other members of the PLC board, they cannot make the call to sack a manager and hire a manager, because they're not going to be the guys. Certainly, two of them are not going to be the guys who are going to work with this manager. So it might be a situation that the fans perhaps don't want to hear, or they don't want to face up to. But Rangers cannot turn around tomorrow morning and sack Philippe Clement. That would solve. I think a lot of people would argue that solves a football issue. It doesn't solve the bigger issues that are at play at Rangers. There's so much that needs done. Yes, Clement and the way that this team is performing, of course, it's a huge issue, and it's an issue that has to be addressed. It has to be solved. This cannot continue. But it cannot continue at the same time as the off-field issues. They also cannot continue, and that has to be all these things flow down. Rangers have to get the top right for that end. So I have to have the right chairman to then feed into the right chief exec, to feed into the right football structure and this football board, to then feed into the manager, to then feed into the squad. As I said earlier on, I keep almost banging this drum. There's too many issues for Rangers at present just to say sack the manager and it'll be fine. Sacking the manager won't make everything fine at Rangers right now.
Yeah, it's a bleak outlook. There's no doubt about it. Kev with the point says, lads, if you forget previous managers' short stints as it clouds judgment and just focus on Phil, are there enough positives we can see to merit sticking with him? I'm really struggling at this moment in time, Kev, I've got to admit. I mean, yesterday, I sprung. I've got a skip, so we're doing a bit of renovating here at my house, and I sprung the news on my wife at 11:30 that there would have to be a brief break in that so I could watch the football. She wasn't best pleased. I wish I just pied the football off and just continued with the renovating, because Rangers are just utterly dreadful to watch at this moment in time. Positives, like you say, Chris, he has talked about a rebuild and it's going to take time. I get that, but we just want to see something. And yesterday we've seen absolutely nothing. Given that a door was opened, as I touched on earlier on, a chance to close the gap, there was nothing. There was nothing there, and it's not a one-off. It's not one of, you could go, oh, it's a bad day at the office. They've had several bad days at the office now, so it's a combination of all that. So I'm really struggling at this moment in time, Kev. Another stat that I seen yesterday that is glaringly bad is the goals scored away from home in the league, Chris. Rangers bottom alongside Ross County with 1 goal scored in 4 away fixtures. That's utterly deplorable, is it not?
Yes, but when you've watched Rangers as often as we have this season and over the last 12 months, does it surprise you? It doesn't, because there's, as we've spoken about the last couple of weeks, there is not enough creativity in the squad. There is certainly not certainly not enough goals in this squad. I know you mentioned Dessers at the top of the show. I'm sure we'll come on to speak about him a bit more. But you look at that team, they're just not enough. Just not enough there. They don't have enough physicality. They don't have enough speed. They don't have enough creativity. They don't have enough goals. And when you don't have all of those things in an attacking sense, it only takes one mistake. So defensively, the last couple of weeks, they have been slightly better in terms of the record, perhaps not in terms of shots conceded. I think teams should have scored against Rangers over the last couple of weeks. They didn't. Rangers then managed to win the games, built some form of momentum domestically. But when you don't have all of those aspects going forward, it only takes one mistake in your own third. And again, it was no surprise that Kelly scored a goal like that. And when you make simple mistakes like John Suter made, you're going to get punished. Kelly knows exactly how to win games like that. Rangers don't. The manager again post-match mentioning the pitch and Kelly's record down there. Come on, how many times are we going to mention the Kilmarnock pitch? So yes, it may well have been Jeffrey's first time on it. Does it make a massive difference? It may well have been Bayrami's first time on it. Certainly not James Tavernier's first time on it. Certainly not John Suter's first time on it. Certainly not Conor Barron's first time on it. So many. You can't keep using excuses like that. The biggest issue is the way that this team is being set up, the man that's picking it, and the players that are in it. And that's, as we keep saying, they are not easy issues to solve right now.
Yeah, good players can play on any surface. Remember Clement saying that they win at Dens Park, that they'll play in the car park. Well, the game, I can't remember what trip it was up there. I don't think it was a 0-0 game, but they'll play in the car park. So, yeah, they should be able to play on any type of surface, whether it's plastic or not. Let's talk about the forward line then, or the lack of forward line. We know where Rangers' problems lie. We've discussed this on numerous shows, Chris. They don't score enough goals. They don't create enough chances. Again, it ties in with the system. It doesn't work with Dessers as your focal point. Second touch is a tackle. Yesterday was Dessers at his worst. Nothing came off. Poor in possession, giving the ball away cheaply. It doesn't look like a threat whatsoever. And I was surprised. I was actually really surprised to see the manager persist with the same 11 that finished that first half. I thought he would make changes, but he never. He persisted with Dessers. Like I say, he had that shot in the second half. You expect your striker to test the goalkeeper, and the one from the corner, he's at full stretch. Of course, I think he's maybe a tad unlucky. I've seen some say he should have been scoring that. Rangers simply needs a better front man. If they're playing that system, Dessers is not the man, which makes me think that he has to swallow his pride somewhat, the manager, change it, go for a 2 up top, whether a 3-5-2, whether go back to good old-fashioned 4-4-2, but Dessers cannot lead the line in these matches, Chris. It's just there's no point in that. The ball just comes straight back at Rangers. It doesn't stick up there, and it's not working clearly.
Come Thursday night, who's going to be leading the line for Rangers?
I know.
Yeah, because there is just right now there's no viable alternative. Even if you then go to next weekend against St Mirren at Ibrox, for me, Dessers gets the nod and he plays as well. He did have a better start to the season. His goal scoring record certainly in the first half dozen games or so was certainly better. But I think you outlined the issue there. It's not just the missed chances with Dessers. It's the style of play. It's what does his attributes fit the way that the manager is trying to get this side to play, and they don't. He can, as you outlined there, there's no faith that he can, when the ball's played into him, that he can hold it up, that he can then bring others into play. Rangers look like a side who don't really have I've seen some comments coming in on the show over the last 20 minutes or so talking about the manager's style of play. What actually is it? No, what is he trying to get these players to do? 12 months in, again, that's quite damning of him. Yeah. Had the chance to address it during the summer, decided that he had enough faith in Dessers to be number 9. For me, Dessers does not fit that number 9 role within this setup. And Rangers, just as I said earlier on, they just do not carry enough threat. I saw people mentioning the goal difference yesterday. You take 6 in one game, and the goal difference is +7 at this stage of the season. If that doesn't tell you where Rangers' issues lie, I know we touched on the goal difference a couple of weeks ago. Also, Celtic didn't add to it at the weekend, but that's almost worth an extra point, even at this stage of the season. And so there's so many issues around Rangers in general, but there's a lot of issues in terms of how this side has been assembled over the summer, and how this side is being asked to play.
Yep. It doesn't bode well, does it? I mean, the forward areas are not good enough. There's no pace in the side either. There's no one there hitting the byline, getting the ball cut back, and we know what Dessers' limitations are. Joshua summed it up perfectly when he was on the post-match show with Johnny yesterday at Rugby Park. He plays on the shoulder. He's not someone that can come short and link the play. Hamza Egeman had done that at various points when he came on. I'd be playing him on Thursday, or else if there's some saying that Zach Lovelace. I don't know what the situation is with him, but Dessers at this moment in time is not doing the business. But listen, he's not the only one. I don't think Cherny Bayrami never had the best of games either. You're looking for the midfield to pop up and contribute. I don't think Diamandi is coming for some criticism this season, Chris, and I think fairly you've got to say there's concerns around him. And the Rangers midfield is another area of the pitch where you're thinking, is it strong enough? I don't think it is. Defensively, Robin Propper went off injured yesterday. For me, I remain to be convinced that he's a better option than Ben Davis. I just don't see it at this moment in time. I would love to be convinced by him. I think Suter I know he had a mistake yesterday, but in the main, I think he's had a good season. Jefte has been good. Tavernier, we all know, shouldn't be in the starting 11 for me. And there's problems littered throughout that team. But again, I think they're being asked to play a system that they're simply unable to. They don't have belief in, and it's coming to the detriment of Rangers because they find themselves on Monday morning 6 points behind. They've got a game against St Mirren on the horizon. They've got a semi-final with Motherwell in the League Cup on the horizon, which are not gimmies. And then you've got that game a week on Wednesday up at Pittodrie. And I'll tell you right now, Aberdeen will be looking forward to that with gusto. I fear for Rangers up there, Chris.
Had this conversation with a couple of the press boys 2 weeks or so ago, before the international break, looking at this next tranche of fixtures, and that Wednesday night up at Pittodrie stands out like a sore thumb in terms of a test for this manager, for this squad. They have failed the first one. Now you looked at that tranche of games coming up. You thought, well, St Mirren at Ibrox, they might not be great, but they should get through that one. As you mentioned, the cup semi-final in there. European ones, it's hard to tell. Leon obviously way above Rangers. Stoya should be more at Rangers level, but who knows what to expect on Thursday night. The big ones that stood out were Killie and Aberdeen, venues that Rangers have this fear factor of almost. I wrote a piece about this. I think it was last year or last season after these same excuses of, well, Pittodrie's a difficult place to go, Kilmarnock's a difficult place to go, Tynecastle and Easter Road are difficult places to go. When you have the budget that Rangers have got, when you have the players that Rangers should be able to attract, the format for these games is fairly simple. You go and people might not like it, but the old cliche about winning the battle before you can win the war, that's true. These games, you go, you assert yourself in a physical manner, you give yourself the right to play, and you're higher quality. Rangers do have better players than Kilmarnock. They should have had enough on the pitch yesterday to go and win that game. But it's the same feeling. It's do they win the 50-50s? Do they win their challenges? Do they do the basics right? And too often they don't do the basics in these games. And you look ahead to that game up at Pittodrie, and it's the same type of occasion. Do you go and do you win those 50-50s in the middle of the pitch? Do you make yourself hard to play against, not so easy to play through as Rangers have been so often this season? And I spoke at the top of the show about it'd be no surprise that Rangers put in that performance on Sunday. It would be no surprise at all if they put in the same kind of performance and lost in the same kind of manner up at Pittodrie in a couple of weeks. You'll find very, very few people that be putting their money on a Rangers win at Pittodrie in a fortnight's time.
Yeah, I don't have any confidence for that trip, I've got to say. Yeah, I'm actually don't have any confidence heading into Thursday. FCSB coming up. Only bit of hope we have is I think Gigi Bacali of the club says that they'll play a weakened team. So let's hope he can play. He plays the kids or what have you, because Rangers don't have the best of records against Romanian sides in recent years. Remember Unarea, which still sends shivers down the spine. Incidentally, I will be speaking to a Romanian journalist just after 12 this afternoon, about 12:30, folks. If you can stomach that, we'll get an insight into what we can expect on Thursday as Rangers return to Europa League action. But domestically, Rangers far from good enough. A few points coming in. David Morrison with the point, what was going on with Sterling? By all accounts, picked up another knock, which meant that he was not part of the match day squad yesterday. Just unfortunately, he's just injury prone, Chris.
Another issue, not the most pressing one, not one that's in the top half a dozen or so on the list. But if you're going to give a guy another contract, you have to be fairly certain that he can get through the required number of games. It's always been a concern of mine with John Sterling. I like what he can bring to the side. Can he bring it to the side often enough? And I think the last 12 months have shown that he can. His absence yesterday. You looked at the team and you looked at the bench. It was the first name that came to mind. Now, where is he? Why is he not available again? I say it's an issue that they have to get to the bottom of. Rangers need players that are more robust.
Yep, can't disagree with that. A couple other points before we wrap up. Jeep says this is as bad as the Caixinha days. I think Pedro's team would have given this team a run for their money at this moment in time, which says it all. Jack Delad as well says, he refused to change a style that clearly doesn't work. The players aren't blameless, but we created zero clear opportunities yesterday. That's on the manager. Yeah, absolutely. He carries the can for that. like we touched on, I can't see a decision being made on the manager anytime soon. I think it's just going to be a case of sticking with the current status quo. I mean, we did say prior to Kilmarnock last week that there's some choppy waters ahead. Rangers have dismissed managers at this point in time in the previous 2 seasons. And Clement at this moment in time looks like he's part of a sinking ship. But whether he can sort of get it back on the straight and narrow, I have my doubts. Do you think we'll see changes? I mean, we will look ahead to the game on Thursday in great detail as we edge closer to that, Chris. Can't imagine Ibrox being raucous, but you can see the manager, he has to make changes. He has to change the system that he's hell-bent on sticking with.
I don't think there'll be big changes in terms of the personnel. I don't think there'll be any changes in terms of the system. I think there's enough evidence to suggest now, over the last 12 months, this is the way that Clement wants the team to play. This is the formation largely that he's going to utilise. And I think that the team has been fairly settled over the last couple of weeks. It looks like there's certain partnerships. Also, I was going to mention Suter and Proper there. Also depends on Proper's injury situation after yesterday. I would be surprised if there's too many changes. One, because he doesn't seem the type who will make widespread changes just on the back of, he will say, well, because I know he mentioned post-match yesterday, look at what has been good in the last couple of weeks. I think good is perhaps stretching it to an extent.
Yeah, that's just expected. That's expect. This is Rangers.
No, he has mentioned the previous couple of weeks. So he'll perhaps see Sunday as an outlier and therefore won't want to be seen to saying, well, that was a freak. So I think he'll stick with what has gone before. There's also, if you look at the squad, there's not exactly a whole host of guys banging on the door to say, I deserve a chance. So does Raskin for Barron or Diomande make a massive difference? Does Igaman for Dessers make a massive difference? Potentially, but probably not, because there's just other issues within the squad. So I think MD, who is expected to go along on Thursday night, when that team's announced 6:30, 7:15 or so, I think you'll see a number of familiar names on it.
Yes, not the cheery show that I had hoped when I said goodbye on Friday, but rocky road ahead for Rangers. It appears, well, it has been this season so far, and we'll wrap up there, folks. So many issues to talk about. We could be here for another hour and a half, but I'm aware that we've got stuff to do, as I touched on. Those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, I will be on with Theo a little later on, the Romanian journalist. He'll give us an insight into FCSB. So we hope you can join us for that around about 12:30. We will be back again tomorrow morning. Join us at 9:30 as ever. Those of you that, if you do enjoy the show, if you watch it, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And then hit the notification bell as well, folks. It means you'll never miss a video when we go live. Lots of content on the YouTube channel at this moment in time, if you can face it. I can understand why many of you are switching off and looking to focus on something else. But we'll be here talking all things Rangers throughout the course of the week as we build up to that game on Thursday night. Right, big thank you to Chris and to you all for tuning in, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.